Hi, I'm Christian, and today we're going to learn about how our words can impact others. Today's big idea is when we live for Jesus, what we say matters. Let's watch today's God story and then talk after.
Hello, my name is Ryan. Today we're talking about tongue.
My friends, it is great to see you. My name is Ryan. I am really excited to be back. I wonder what your name is, but I want to start by sharing a story with you guys about a time when I was younger. We used to go on vacation with a few other families who were like my actual family to Greece, and it was beautiful. We'd all stay in a house together, and there was one of these other young people, part of the family. She was basically like my sister, and just like any siblings, we would often have a couple arguments and a couple rows. And there was one night, I was obviously completely innocent. She was accusing me of something, and we ended up having a row and an argument. I actually said something that really hurt her and really damaged our relationship, and it took a couple of years to get back to where we were. And it was a moment where I just didn't think about what I was saying, and I just kind of spoke too soon. That actually ties in so well with what we're talking about today. Now, when we speak, sometimes we can have a slip of the lip. It can be an accident. Sometimes we can discourage people when we speak too quickly. Sometimes when we speak, we can actually really encourage people and actually really have a good impact on them. We can speak life into their lives. But it's important to know that what we say and how we speak really is powerful. It can really impact the people around us. Some of us might have the reputation of being really optimistic and really encouraging. Others, we may be those who complain a lot, that we might struggle to be optimistic and more engaging. And for that reason, our big idea today is that when we live for Jesus, what we say matters. Do you remember last week we introduced you to this guy James, who was the half-brother of Jesus, same mom, just a different dad. He wrote this letter to encourage them to step out in their faith, that not just to say they believe in Jesus, but to actually live it out. And we can be encouraged by that today. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up this story in chapter 3, verses 3 to 10, and see what we can learn today. We can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth. And a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go, even though the winds are strong. In the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches. Man, James uses some really cool imagery in this letter. For the first one, he tells us about the horse. Now, in ancient times, horses were about 700 to 1,000 pounds. We're not talking about small ponies here. We're talking big horses. And he tells us about the bit. The bit was something that would sit in the horse's mouth, and the person who was riding the horse could control it where to go left or right just by this small instrument in its mouth. And that is exactly what he's saying about the tongue. He's using that as an example to describe the tongue, how it can give these grand speeches, but just by being a small instrument in our mouth. James also tells us about the ship and the tiny small rudder that controls the ship. Even though the winds are strong, the person driving the ship just needs to change the direction of the small rudder at the back, and it will change the direction of this giant ship. Can we see the imagery that James is giving us? He's describing that something so small can make such a huge impact, and that's what he's saying the tongue is. I want you to think about the size of your tongue compared to the rest of your body.
The tongue isn't that big compared to the rest of the body.
And so what James is saying is he's giving us these examples that although the tongue and the mouth is so small, what comes out of it can actually impact who we are, will actually encourage or discourage the people around us, can actually change our reputation, that we can give these grand speeches. James goes on to say, and we're going to pick up the story again, he says, "But a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And among all the parts of the body, the tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness, corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself." Holy smokes, that's intense. People can tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and fish, but no one can tame the tongue. It is restless and evil, full of deadly poison. Sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who have been made in the image of God. And so blessing and cursing come pouring out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this is not right. James is highlighting for us just how important it is to be cautious by what we say. I wonder if you can remember in James chapter 1, he shared with us that we should be slow to speak, that we should be quick to listen, and slow to become angry. That's a practice we can all learn, and something I can learn as well. And in this passage, James is just reminding us just how dangerous what we say can really be. Imagine harsh words to someone can break their spirit. Picture yourself in school and you see somebody who's already having a rough day and you see that they're wearing something that you think's a bit silly or you don't really like, and you go up to them and you make sort of a side comment that really discourages them. That can be the final straw to them feeling absolutely horrible about themselves or to feel so discouraged. Angry words can have a domino effect on somebody else, that if we say something to them to discourage them, they will then go and they can say something to somebody else out of that pain that we have caused them with our words. Our words can speak life. Imagine we can encourage somebody that nobody else really recognizes in our schools or in our homes. We have a choice with what comes out of our mouth. So why would we choose darkness and pain and hurt, just like James is saying, when we can encourage, speak life, speak truth, and really build up the people around us? Our words, they matter. They can be a tiny spark that sets a forest on fire, causing destruction. Or they can be a tiny spark that lights up the world. It's literally our choice. That's why today our big idea is so important, that when we live for Jesus, what we say matters. My friends, it has been so good to speak with you. I really hope you can take something away from today, and I really look forward to seeing you guys again next time. My name's Ryan, and I will see you guys later.
We just heard that praise and cursing can come from the same mouth, and that showed me that we need to think before we speak. If we choose kind words and a loving attitude, we can show the love of Jesus wherever we go. Well, let's listen to what some of our friends had to say when we asked them what impact words had on them.
Hi friends, I want to talk to you today about the importance of the things that we say. You've probably heard that words have power, and it's true. Words can have a profound impact on the people that we say them to. At the core of Jesus' teaching is the importance of loving one another. One of the ways that we can do that is being intentional about what we say to each other. I went out and asked a couple friends about some examples from their own lives where someone else's words had a profound impact on them. Let's hear what they had to say.
Man, the most impactful thing someone has ever said to me was, okay, so here's a story. I remember three years ago, I was hanging out in Kansas City with a couple of friends, and someone had made a joke. It wasn't that funny, but to me, it was very funny. And if you know me, I laugh hysterically at almost everything. So I remember laughing so hard that one of my friends said, Doug, not a lot of people found that funny, but the way you found it funny almost reflects God in the way he probably laughs at each and every one of our jokes. So thank you for laughing. And yeah, that was very encouraging to me because it showed how much I reflect God's character, even in how I laugh. I think sometimes I would get really insecure about how hard I laugh and how much I laugh, because I'd be thinking people are looking at me like, this guy's crazy, like why is he laughing so much, or can he keep it down, right? But if I can count how many times I've heard that compared to how many times people have been encouraged by my laugh, I would say I've probably heard more about people being encouraged by my laugh rather than people being negatively affected by it. So in hearing what my friend said earlier, it put me in a place of just confident in my identity, and then just hearing the encouragement and affirmation just encouraged me to continue to do it, to encourage people in how much I laugh. So more than anything, it's just giving me a place just to be comfortable in my skin and be who I am, and someone who really laughs a lot.
About a few weeks ago, I was just chatting online with a friend, and she just mentioned how thankful she is for our friendship, and how grateful she's been just to have a friend like me for these few years. And yeah, it's just been so cool hearing that from her. We met in university about probably 9 years ago now. And you know, sometimes it's really easy to kind of drift apart when you're not in the same city anymore after we graduated. And so it's been really special that we've kept this friendship going and put in the effort to keep it going, just amidst all those changes. And so, yeah, it meant a lot to have that specific compliment coming from her, just because she is somebody who has seen me not necessarily be my best all the time. She's definitely seen me just not necessarily be the perfect friend like I think I should be all the time.
The most encouraging thing someone has ever said to me was a moment where I was in a position where I was sharing how I can feel shame and feel just this hesitancy and this weight of not being a good friend or not creating a safe space with who I am. And then a good friend of mine shared almost immediately after, he spoke to how in multiple times he's felt safe, and he's someone who has trouble being vulnerable, and he affirmed me in saying that I've helped him become comfortable being uncomfortable and stepping into that vulnerability, and being that safe space for someone, especially someone I care about, is something that is so affirming and so encouraging.
So actually a few weeks ago, I was at work and I was having a really rough day. And after work, I just got into my car and I sat there and I cried because I didn't know what else to do. And I phoned a friend, and something that really stood out to me in our conversation was she didn't sit there and try to give me advice. She didn't try to tell me what to do. She just said to me, I will hold this with you so that you don't have to hold this weight on your own. And that was cool because it reminded me of God, and it reminded me of how with Him, when we share that burden, it does take that weight off of us. It does take a little bit of the pressure off, and I don't have to sit in it by myself. What my friend said to me that day and how she encouraged me is really something that I want to take with me going forward in my friendships. It was something that I held close because she didn't want to do anything but encourage me and sit with me in what I was going through, and that has motivated me to take that going forward.
Wow, what an impact a few simple words can have on us. Sometimes it can be difficult to remember to be encouraging or to stay positive in a difficult situation. But I think stories like these are such a great example of what can come out of us choosing to lift others up. I hope all of you are inspired to say something encouraging to someone today. Maybe a family member or a friend. I know I am. Until next time.
Our friends made it very clear that when people say positive and encouraging things, it can totally change their perspective on their circumstances. When we live for Jesus, we reflect His love to others, and that's why what we say really matters. Let's break into our small groups and see how this looks in our own stories.